Thank you for being with us this afternoon, and apologies for this a little disruption that we have right now.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for this afternoon. And very happy to see some brothers I know already, Brother Kevin, Jimmy, and there's a friend here, Handi. Also, good to see some of you here. And for those of you I haven't met, my name is Tommy Tjiptadjaja. I'm born and raised in Indonesia. Did my study in US, worked for a long time in the US and then the Europe before heading back to the region again. When I came back to the Indonesia, I felt called back to the region because that's where I believe God has planned for me to use me fully in the region for His purpose. And when I re-entered the region after leaving it for 10 years, I started with through management consulting. I was a consultant for Southeast Asia for Boston Consulting Group. And I believe some of you are from the Philippines. I've consulted in Philippines with Pfizer in Makati, and then with I've been to Cambodia as well, and even India. Even though I signed up for BCG Southeast Asia, I don't know why India counts as Southeast Asia at that time instead of South Asia. But it was a fun journey. But my passion has always been in building businesses, leveraging commercial power for social and environmental impact. So I believe every business needs to be a social business. That's how the world will be a much better place. We have to have a redemptive agenda such that the products and services we make can make better for the communities, for the people, for the earth as well. So thank you for inviting me, and maybe what I can do, I can share for about 5 minutes the very quick version of what Greenhope is to set as a context, and then we can start the discussion. Yeah, that sounds fine?
Yep.
All right. So Greenhope, it's basically we're trying to solve this problem. And I know this is a big problem everywhere in the world and in Indonesia and the Philippines as well, which is the plastic pollution problem. The plastic pollution problem is, the world has awakened to this problem for the past 3 years, I would say, because hold on a second. Why is this? Yeah. Well, why is there's a lag here? It's interesting. It was working just perfect before.
We have to keep innovating now.
Yeah. So, but basically, the entire ocean is all polluted and so much plastic everywhere. And it says that you eat a credit card's worth of plastic a week, according to research. And that cumulatively, all the microplastics we eat from the water, the fish, and everything we consume, right? And this is no wonder, because as a society, globally, we consume 400 million tons of plastic every year. That's about 25 to 30 million containers. And these plastics will hang around and will start to fragment, but they will not degrade until 100, 500 years. So literally we're injecting our planet with plastic, and it's going to be planet plastic. So it's not a question of if this is going to make us sick. It's a question of when. Is it one credit card? Is it four credit cards? Is it 5 credit cards a week that are antibodies? Our everything will start to turn against us. Not to mention all the ocean living that will die as a result of that. So needless to say, this is a matter of survival, not just, it's a big problem that is for survival. And the solution is not simplistic. If we become too simple, then we're not solving the problem. That's why when people try to make it simple, we do need to reduce plastic usage where we can, and we need to have reusable, right? Our own water bottles, our bags and everything. But when we talk about modern age, where you have centralized manufacturing, then you have packaging. that you need to transport it to many different parts of the countries. And in Indonesia's case, when you produce, we reportedly produce about 8 million bread every day. We transport it to 17,000 islands. And that bread needs to stay fresh for 5 days and so forth, at least. So you need plastics. And because of the plastics, some plastic you can recycle, like the PET bottles, you can economically recycle. So you choose recycle route for that. But a lot of the single-use plastic, like garbage bags, cutleries, food trays, and everything, you cannot recycle it economically. In other words, it takes much more water, money, effort to recycle it than if you let it biodegrade. So in that case, you need the biodegradable solution for it. So Greenhope is a piece of the solution in this entire set of solution. I always tell people we need to be less ego, more eco. That means that none of us should claim that we're the only solution. We are part of the solution. So we are in the 12 countries and counting right now, and with our 3 technologies, Oxium, EcoPlus, and NatureLoot. So these are increasing in environmental value as well as price. So from the additive that makes regular plastic oxidize and biodegrades to the compostable NatureLoop, which is European and American grade. So Greenhope has all 3, and these are our own technologies that we have patented in the US, Singapore, and Indonesia. My co-founder was actually the scientist researching about this. And this is another example where I'm pretty excited that we do in Greenhope, which is, as a social entrepreneur, it's not just marketing, you see. So we source our tapioca from the farmers at the premium price, and then we turn it into a bioresins, and then we turn it into various items that we export or consume domestically that have very positive environmental value, better than regular plastics. So the idea is, our vision is, we want to change unsustainable consumption, one product at a time. We have the downstream, many diverse variety of product. And I believe we're just starting, and we have to work with as many people as possible, because there's no way in this space we can make a dent or matters if we don't collaborate. So that's a little bit of Greenhope story as a context of our discussion on innovation today. Back at you, Eli.
Yep. Thank you so much, Tommy. How do you pronounce your last name? Sorry.
Everybody asked that. You want to take a stab at it?
Tjiptadjaja.
Well, that's very close. It's 85% right there.
Okay.
Kevin knows. Kevin.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Tjiptadjaja. The J, the last J by itself is Y.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Tjiptadjaja. Yeah.
Thank you for the short presentation about Greenhope. You know, while waiting for Jackie, I have, I think, 1 or 2 questions, and then maybe Jimmy can, ask, and the guys in the room right now can also ask. So, what made you start this? What led you to start Greenhope?
Very good question. To me, business is about solving problems.
Okay.
And the bigger the problem is, the bigger your potential for value creation, right? And profit is a function of value capture out of the value you create. So if you create small value, then potentially you can capture only small part of it. But profit is not the end, but it's a means and an indicator whether you actually create value or not. So to me, I'm always passionate about trying to solve real tough problems in the world. And I guess when I started Greenhope, I had my hair full and everything. And now, see what happened to me. It's worthwhile. I remember one engineer that says that it's a tragic that the smartest of people amongst us today are figuring out how to make people click more. And that's a tragedy, because there's so many problems, which means there's so many opportunities that we can actually do good or create good products and services for the people. And if we have that mindset about solving real problems, then we can be potentially authentic and original also as a competitive advantage. Otherwise, in Indonesia, if you have a noodle shop, then you see a lot of people go to that noodle shop. If you just want to make a quick buck, then you create another noodle shop next to it, or then you're not very original, because we need to find real problems. So, and plastic is definitely one of the very, very big problem of today. I am at first, it was kind of like stumble with my co-founder partners. We talk and we said, okay, let's launch this company. But then we start to have, in a way, encouragement. You know, when I came home, and then my two daughters, I have two daughters, 12 and 10, and she, one of them was like, you know, Papa, I haven't spoken, we haven't played board games for a while. You've been traveling, but we know you're trying to make our earth better and our earth better, so it's okay. And I was like, okay, that's a very sweet and worthwhile reward from my daughters. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So thank you so much for that. And you know, just a follow-up to the question, because what you have is actually a wonderful, a very much relevant and needed social enterprise. It is both a business and the social significance for the planet, for the people, for the survival, which is actually our topic today. You know, innovating to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
How do you think this is possible with what Greenhope is doing? And in addition to that, what have you been learning? One, pre-pandemic, and then two, during the pandemic, and then maybe after whatever new normal really will look like.
So pre-pandemic, like Greenhope has been around 4 years right now since we started as a company. 5 years, we've been growing. Praise God, really thank God. We've been growing healthily, and we've been cruising and growing and targeting our growth target for this year. Up to April, we're still growing very, very well. And then May collapsed like crazy, our numbers. And I believe the pandemic really shows that nothing is ever certain. Nothing is ever as solid as we all think. There's always, we are just one step away from any sort of a turbulence. And pandemic also shows that innovation is more than anything, is very, very important. Pandemic really separates companies that is somewhat allergic to innovation or to technology, to anything, with companies who have access to technology, who have access to the platform. You know, if you see the winners and losers in stock markets, you see the winners and losers, it's very, very different. The billionaires got billions and billions and billions of dollars of increased net worth, Amazon's and Facebook and Microsoft, while massive amount of people are out of job and suffering on the front lines. So that is the world, you know. Why can they win such a big thing? Because they're linked, they are prepared, and they have access to the technologies, and their innovation is part of their DNA. I believe that is a hard truth that we all need to learn and need to ask ourselves. If innovation is really part of our DNA, or we just treat innovation as just a function of our business.
So maybe before I turn over to Jimmy, and maybe there are questions now in Slido, and very much encouraged to you know, write those questions, or even as a group you can ask the questions while we're waiting for Jackie. But one thing is the situation now in relation to the pandemic. They're saying it's good for the environment because, you know, the seas are, you know, getting cleaner, the sky is getting, you know, clearer. But just like what you mentioned about Amazon, you know, every day we are receiving delivery from, you know, Lazada and other things, and these are all in plastic and whatever container there is. It's accumulation of, you know, so much trash. And somehow, you know, research says it, and it's even until, you know, from college back those days, if you have the critical mass, which is just actually 3-4%, not so big, you can influence a change in a society, in a community, and you are a very young organization, very young company, 4 or 5 years. How are you able to now somehow influence, behavior change in relation to this thing, plastic and other things, garbage?
Yeah. Very good question. And I think if we look at when we first started, we always see ourselves at that time as a technology innovator. It makes sense. We have some patents under our belts. We are technologists. We are the geeks. We create the bioresins and all that stuff, right? Then soon enough, quick enough, we realize that it's like hitting a hard wall. If you're just a technology trying to sell it as a technology, you're not going to be able to move anything. So right now we define ourselves as a technology and social innovator.
Okay.
And I believe any business should be a social innovator. What that means is we have to understand how the society works, what are the intersection of the society, and how do we collaborate. So for instance, we were so lucky. We were part of the World Economic Forum as Schwab Social Entrepreneurs, and they also gave us scholarship. So we were in Harvard, and one of our professors, I really learned a lot from her. She taught about you need to three things when you want to move the society. You need, one is the agitator, the one who played the agitator role, basically present a case for change, right? Yep. And that, in our case, necessarily so cannot be Greenhope, because Greenhope is people will see like, oh, you are selling your own technology. Of course, you're biased and everything. So we have to find some sincere, honest, critical partner who really discuss about what are the right solutions for plastic waste pollutions, right? For Indonesia, even each country we discover will require their own solutions, or at least each region. You cannot just simply copy paste European solution with their GDP $55,000 per to Indonesians $3,500. The solution for plastic waste pollution entirely different. So we need to work together. What that means is we work together with a lot of the NGOs, with some like-minded public communities, leaders, right? And then we become the innovators because we have the technology, we have the know-how. And then the third party that is required also is we need the collaborators. So who collaborate, right? Can stitch together all these different parties. Let's create a movement out of this. Let's work together. So that we became, when we realized that, we became more open in our approach, and we're just a tiny speck in this entire. We is part of the entire thing, right? We're a cog in the wheel. So we have to work together, and that, I believe, the model for the future for all enterprises to move the needle. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just got text messages from Jackie right now, and she just wrote down some questions. So maybe I could ask some of these questions to you. Some are already answered, but I will still ask. Sure. Why is innovation so hard? Based from experience.
From my experience, originally, it's hard because, first of all, it's tiring. Humans in general don't like change. Innovation, by definition, keep changing yourself, keep figuring how to do well and everything. However, so it's almost like against a part of our nature. Why do I say part? Because I believe at the same time, innovation is embedded in us too, as a natural trait from God, right? God is the creator God. So when he create, what is the difference between humankind with animals and the others? That's why I don't subscribe to the evolution as far as the Darwinian evolution theory, like we're from monkeys. Monkeys will always be monkeys. Monkeys for 5 million, if you give monkeys 5 million years, they will be monkeys. They're not it's suddenly a house with green energy efficient, with sophisticated panel, and the house with integrated with a garden, right? Birds will always be birds. They will always create their homes from the leaves and from the ranting roots, right? From the trees. But humans, you give time, we innovate. Look at our houses. Look at everything. Look at our ships, our airplanes, our spaceship now. Those things. So that's in our nature. So it's in our nature. Also, all we need to do is we should acknowledge it, that it's in our nature, and how to enjoy this process, despite part of us also is not comfortable or feel sometimes tired because it feels like we are running on a treadmill sometimes if we have to keep innovating. Right?
Thank you. Thank you. You know, as we are in this still in the pandemic situation, and we from the Philippines, we are still experiencing the longest lockdown in the world, and the things are easing up, but still in lockdown. But you know, primarily because of the economy, we really are, instead of flattening the curve, we are actually flattening the economy. So my question, which is related to the question of Jackie here, is that for small businesses, and we, you know, Partners Worldwide deals primarily with organizations that somehow helps small entrepreneurs. So in this situation right now, that what we have right now, what can you advise? What can you recommend for small companies, businesses, in terms of, you know, whatever innovation that they can still survive or even thrive in this during this pandemic and after this pandemic situation?
Right. Good question. Greenhope also started small. We started from our first country as well, right? So small means that is the initial stage of the embryo, right? And any companies, just like any living organism, either you grow or you actually collapse, right? There's no such thing as static, right? So any organism will be dynamic. So, and I always believe, either small or big, finding your sweet spot is the important stuff. So what is the things that are happening in the COVID world that suddenly becomes a need, right? Yep. And identify that needs, articulate that needs, validate that needs. Is that true needs or not? What are the stuff that becomes the problems, right? Is that a big problem or not, right, in the COVID world? And then we can somewhat imagine also the post-COVID world. There will be less travel because we can do this. It's such an awesome thing. All of us, brothers and sisters, Southeast Asia here, combined together in the US and so forth globally. So there will be less travel. People will be at home more. So what do they need if they're at home more, right? So a lot of those going through that thought process, identifying who the customers is. And then secondly is, eventually, I always think in terms of competitive advantage, right? What can we do better to serve this customer? Who are the customers that we can serve way better than anybody else, right? We have to have a space between the next guy. I can serve this group of people way better than them because I know exactly their needs, right? So we need to understand the customer and then understand ourselves. And then we need to articulate, and these are when we need to pivot sometimes. COVID can really force everybody to pivot. And if you want to pivot, we go through the mental checklist of what are the capabilities and resources that our company has right now. Now we need to think in a fresh terms. What are the key capabilities that my people have, right? What are the 3-4 capabilities, and what are their assets? Their network, their access to people, their motorcycles, their ability to design. So what are the resources and skills, and can we match them with the needs and problems of the COVID world? That's probably the thinking of the matching thinking that we have to go through. If we can, right? And the underpinning of all this that I reflect is our state of mind. Is our state of mind is fearful, tired, worry, because those kind of state of mind will limit our imagination, will limit our effectiveness when we go through that process. So we need to free our state of mind as well. It's okay to acknowledge fear. It's okay to acknowledge tiredness. but then how do we support each other, encourage one another so that we can be in a state of mind of growing? Okay, I know it's tough, but I want to grow. I want to turn this around. Therefore, then you go through that exercise. So state of mind, I thought is quite important because otherwise it can jam your progress.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I think Jackie is here now, and I will be turning it over to Jackie. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. But can I still ask one question? Because I really love what you're doing with Greenhope. And somehow we have this 4 Ps, you know, in doing business that really matters. We have to, you know, of course, the profit and the people, the purpose, you certainly have the purpose, and then protecting the planet, preserving the planet, the 4 Ps. With 4 or 5 years of Greenhope now, are you able to do it?
I believe so. I believe so. In our small, imperfect way, I believe so. But what I want to encourage us all to do is really to think about our business model carefully. Because if you get the business model right, scaling it up is easier. And our business model, as much as possible, we need to bring goodness in the first place. We can't say that, look, if we try to be social entrepreneurs, we want to innovate and help the world at the same time. But let me just make tons of money first, and then I spend some money on it. It doesn't work. When I was in World Economic Forum, I asked Professor Schwab that social entrepreneurs as a separate class of people should extinct. What I mean by that is all of us here should be social entrepreneurs by definition. And people working in Chevron should be social entrepreneur by definition. People working with BP and even in other places should be social entrepreneur. What I mean by that is that CSR model, while it's better than nothing, it's not enough. It's far from enough, not enough. If you exploit the environment for 100% and then you take away 2% of the net profit to put into NGOs to help fix the environment, how does the math work, right? It's just simply not going to work. The only way that this will work, the only way that this work will become better, if the 100% we generate in the first place as a revenue has a very strong stewardship model for the planet to start with. That's the only way. And I think being entrepreneurs of our size, if you're starting small and everything, it's the best way to try. Because you don't have some legacy baggage, and you don't have like airline, if they're locked because 10,000 of their people have pension funds that you need to pay. You really cannot tinker with the business model too much. You have that big obligation, right? But if you start small, you have no obligation. You can start from scratch. That's the best way to start with a great business model.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tommy. And take it away, Jackie.
Sure.
Tommy, do you know anyone who has the heart to fix internet? That would be amazing. So I align so much with what you just shared. I feel like the term social enterprise should be extinct sooner rather than later. I love that about you, what you just shared. So you've described it previously as the DNA of a company. Is that what you're elaborating on? And for example, if it is supposed to be the DNA of a company, how can entrepreneurs or business owners go about creating that entrepreneurial or innovative culture right at the center of the company? Do you have some specific examples?
From my experience, I'm going to talk about Indonesian context a little bit here. We're dealing with people and culture. My strong belief is that people will rise to the standard that you set them. It's so much easier to say, look, you're in Indonesia, why do manufacturing? Just do technologies and everything. You deal with the smartest people in the cities and everything, service banks and stuff. Manufacturing is a headache. If the labor union doesn't disrupt you, you're already lucky enough, because in manufacturing in Indonesia, people were trained to be, quote unquote, trained to be lazy and stuff like that. But we have to refuse that big generalization. That is so not true. And it's clear that there's Toyota here, there's Astra. We can have some very, very good productivity as well. But what we do need is leadership, an example from the leaders. And that is the hard part, to be honest with you, because being a leader and to have this energy 24/7, geez, that's a little bit hard, unless you have each other to support, right? If you're by yourself, it's like you feel like from the morning till the evening, like everybody's nibbling a little bit of you until nothing left by the end of the day. But if we're together, we can encourage one another and we can show. So with people, for instance, in Indonesia, it's so easy to characterize them as, okay, you only care about your minimum wage and you don't care about your productivity and stuff, which is wrong. So what we try to do in Greenhope is from day one, we try to train them to rise to the occasion. We really, regardless of their pay level, now everybody is above minimum wage, even in our manufacturing and everything. You need to grow, because growth is part of the human capacity and human excitement. If we treat them as just economic being who cares about their wages, and every year you'll have negotiation, then they will behave exactly like that. But if we treat them like they need to get excited with the entire mission of Greenhope. So in Greenhope, even if you're engineering and your job is only, or machine operator, you turn on the machine, you should be able to articulate how we are changing the world, through our products, even though you're not marketing. So we do regular all hands meetings. We do regular meeting with the entire team, and they can ask everything. And I actually teach them about business as well. Look, if you want to have increase of salary per person, you bring this much productivity. There are two ways. We can increase cost to the customer or price, or we can increase our productivity. Which one do you think is easier? So they learn about the business and they think like us. Then before long, we are together as one union, as opposed to each only go after themselves. So we need to train them. That's the only way. If we don't want to train, we're not going to go anywhere. We should train, and that can be tiring. But to be honest with you, during COVID time, that's one of the best time. So we have this regular Greenhope Belajar Bersama, a study together, we call it, every Friday, where people from different units share what they're doing and educate each other on what they're doing and everything. That's the study together. And sometimes I create competition, like video competition. They create funny videos, silly videos from home or factory about the COVID routines or what they're doing at home. We give cash prizes just to get the morale and excitement up in a positive and sharing and learning way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, in so many ways, the whole term innovation can seem so daunting to entrepreneurs and even small businesses, because when you think of innovation, you think, oh, technology or renovation of the product, which takes quite a bit of time sometimes and possibly some financial investment. But I think the examples that you're sharing are helping us think outside the box, that every person within a company can be innovative in their assigned responsibility or what it is that they do within the company. So for example, I'm curious to know some other ideas that you've seen floating around. Even in COVID response, some businesses are shifting the way that they're promoting their business. They're doing more social media or very low-cost platforms such as e-commerce on Facebook, or reducing, the production costs, like you just said. So have you seen some specific examples, especially in response to COVID, that you've seen going on in the small business world, ways that people have been innovative in response to COVID, no matter if they're creating a new product or pivoting in other ways, even internally?
Well, my favorite, I haven't seen it myself, this example, but I love it because it's just so illustrative of innovation, right? How these, and you may have read it, about how these people who basically breweries, right? They make beers, community beers, micro breweries, micro by definition, small breweries to serve the communities or restaurants there. Guess what? COVID, complete stop and everything. They had no idea, okay, how do we survive here? Okay, now they started to go through the mental checklist that we just discussed, right? Okay, what are the skills we have? Okay, skills can create beers, advertise about beers. Okay, during COVID, how do we do that? And then what are the assets we have? Hey, we have this fat tank where we basically ferment the beer and everything, right? Then they start asking themselves, what else can we do with a vat like this that it's useless? And you know what they end up doing, right? So they create hand sanitizers. So they repurpose that machines to be hand sanitizers producers. And now they're producing hand sanitizers. Graphic designers, you know, everything stops, no projects coming in and everything. And they used to set up websites and stuff. They can't do it. Now they think, okay, what else can we do? What else can we do? Then they start looking around and they saw factories who are making all these masks, right? COVID and everything. But these factories don't have website capabilities, don't have selling capabilities in the new normal or platform. And of course, you can't sell it through physical places because they're all closed. So of course, the graphic designer, the website makers and everything, knowing that that's their skills, they go to the factory and they say, look, we're going to create your sales interface and we'll help you sales and everything. Then it's win-win. I love that kind of very practical and stories that, you know, and I believe all of us here, the fact that we are entrepreneurs, we are in different roles, parts of the value chains, we're innovators already. This means that we don't accept the status quo of things the way they are. You already took the first step. You said that there's got to be a better way, and I want to try that. You already took the step of innovating already. Now it's just, and that means that it's already in the DNA. So it's just a matter of how do I make this as a routine in everything we do. Can we do it better? Can we do it faster? Can we do it in a more redemptive way in the market, for instance? Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've said it so well. I'm not sure if you said this while I was bumped offline, but you've said that if you aren't looking into the future, you'll soon be in the past. And that's really important to keep in mind. There is a quotation from Ginny Rometty of IBM, which is a huge company known around the globe in their innovation over, I mean, it's basically transformed the way that we connect with people these days through computer technology and everything over the last few decades. But she once said, the only way you survive is that you continuously transform into something else. And it's this idea of continuous transformation that makes you an innovative company. So how do we keep that mentality of continuously transforming without being overwhelmed by the risk or doing too much, in which case, you know, one mistake along the way may throw us off the edge, you know, especially in the small business mentality? How do you both innovate as you go, but also mitigate the risk of whether it's the money or the time that you have to invest up front in even small steps of innovation? How do you handle that fine balance?
Right. I believe we have to understand our true north. What problem are we trying to solve? But at the same time, fully realizing that there are many ways to get there, right? So it's like riding a bike. You have to know when to a little bit turn left, turn right, pivot, but you know you have to keep cycling to go forward, because the moment you lose speed, you fall for sure. So you have to, I guess, knowing that it's accepting ourselves that, I mean, God created us as innovator. We talked about this in the beginning, Jacqueline, about how humans, if you give birds 1 million years, the house will continuously look like that, made by the branches of trees and stuff like that. But you give human 1 million years, the house will be floating in the sky and all that stuff, right? That's just our nature. We innovate. So we just need to embrace that and ask ourselves, how can our true north, be it in the form of the problems that we're tackling and solving, or in the form of people who are helping, customers we are improving their lives, can be served better, can be served better in that way. Continuously asking that, I believe that will keep us going. And my favorite example is BlackBerry, right? If you go to any financial page, you check the share of BlackBerry, is one of the, you see a mountain, right? Over a very short time, you have a very big mountain and you go down, you crash. What happens to the BlackBerry? They're the coolest thing ever. The president of the United States used it and everybody used it. But their mistake is only one, yeah, which is they fall in love not to the mission, but to their own product, which is they think that the keyboard will last forever. And everybody will be addicted to the clicking of the keyboard and nobody will ever move from that. And guess what? If you treat your own products like a sacred cow, then the competitors will kill it. So I believe we have to kill our own products. We don't let our competitors kill our own products. Sugi, my partner, told me about when he was working in 3M as the R&D engineer. He said that 3M has a discipline of innovation such that 50% of at that time, 50% of their revenue should be generated from a new product that was invented in the last 5 years. Geez, that is a very ambitious
That's a quick
goal.
pace.
Crazy. That's why as a Minneapolis mining company, their famous product are yellow sticky notes. It just doesn't make sense. How a mining company, sticky notes, yellow sticky notes. And that's from a failed glue project, right? They try to create a glue that simply did not work because it keeps, losing it from the stuff. Okay, then we create sticky notes. So it's respect our God-given brains. It's just unbelievable what the brain is able to do. But it does need stimulants, right? It does need outside stimulants. That's why, go out, enjoy nature and hang out with cool friends like each other here and stuff to be stimulated. And it does need the right mindset in a sense that, like we discussed before, you have to have a growth mindset. You decide to want to have a growth mindset as opposed to just hunkering down because COVID is falling up, makes everything fall apart. No, nothing falls apart. There will be many, many people suffering, no doubt about it. But we can find our role in it to be the good force of nature as opposed to just accepting it. Yeah.
Yeah, sticky notes are definitely my BlackBerry. So I hope they don't go up and down the mountain like BlackBerry did, but that's an awesome example. So Tommy, especially within the COVID situation right now, a lot of the businesses represented on the call today are actually still more or less under lockdown. And so, especially in a time like this, how do we see those opportunities for what you might call creative disruption? I mean, that's a floating term that goes around, especially as we don't know what exactly is going to happen in the next week or 4 weeks or, certainly 3 months. So how can small businesses really identify new market needs and quickly leverage those resources that they currently have within their grasp in a time like this?
So I see that, for instance, my wife, so we were locked down too, right? For 2+ months, I believe, in Jakarta. And suddenly my wife becomes an online shopper. Before she was not. She was very allergic. So despite me saying all this innovation and stuff, she's the steady one. Keep the ship afloat, I guess. So to balance each other. So she shopped online and she shopped not from a sophisticated app, right? Or website. She shopped from a WhatsApp group, right? And shopped for food made by moms who never did any business before. These mothers of my friends creates such a very good tasting noodles in a very nice packaging, including the sambal, the spicy sauce was in a very nice package as well. Looked very cool, professional. I'm like so surprised. And this is scalable. Each noodle were packed so that you can just put it in the freezer, and when it's done, and when you're about to eat it, you just open it up, cook it, and it's so much better than instant noodles cup, and so much healthier too, for sure. So if like mothers who never had done any business, she knew how to cook noodles for her family before. And suddenly she's in the business because of COVID, serving a lot of us, my wife and her friends. Surely there's an opportunity for all of us. But the key is feeling the pulse of the people. Look, at the end of the day, people will need to eat. People will need entertainment. People will need to connect with each other. People will need to learn. They will need to continue to learn, right? There's no avoiding that. People cannot be in lockdown forever, for sure. So even if we're totally stuck during lockdown, take heart, because for sure it cannot be forever. More than before, it will be open. Sooner than you think it will be open. So the question is, are you ready? So right now we should busy with creating our blueprint. If nothing can truly in your business, nothing that is pivotable, like so many pivots examples I gave, if really nothing is pivotable, at least you can really thoroughly prepare for when the lockdown is over. And I can tell you for sure it will be sooner than later, because nobody can keep holding out like this economically. It's just very hard. The livelihood for people who rely from the medium and lower level of economy, which is physical economy. Physical economy cannot lock down forever. It's just, so we should be ready for that too.
Yeah. Well, what great advice as we wrap up. So I just want to thank you, Tommy, so much for coming and sharing your insights with us today. I wish we had more time, but we're almost to the 1 hour point. So yeah, hoping to hear more from you in the future and maybe have you revisit the sessions moving forward. I just want to, first of all, invite everyone to give their feedback on the link that Jimmy has just placed in the chat box. And we would actually love to hear your feedback, especially since I want to notify everyone, we are going to stop doing this series on a weekly basis, but moving forward, we'll be gathering again on a quarterly basis. So as for now, we're really interested in getting the feedback on how these first 5 webinars went. Were they satisfying? Were they engaging? Was it an important topic that you thought was valuable for you to take to your own small business or leadership experience? So please go ahead and fill out that webinar survey in the link there on the chat box. Secondly, I just want to mention that next week, we'll be sending out an email to everyone here, as well as participants from weeks prior, to go ahead and give you every single link from the prior recordings, including the recording for today. And those will be YouTube links, which you can then send and share with your own networks and other entrepreneurs that come to mind for you. So Tommy, any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us before we wrap up today's session? First of all, thank you so much for participating and for dealing with this Wi-Fi issue. I apologize about that.
No worries.
Any final words of wisdom for entrepreneurs and small businesses?
I think to stick with our theme of innovation, we should just embrace innovation, and it is part of each of us. The fact that you're starting what you're starting, you're innovator already. You already doesn't take the status quo, and you already said that, look, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So that's why you're there. So it's just embrace it. And look, COVID only is like a light. It doesn't affect us as much as it just reveals who we are, I believe. So it's a test. Think about it as it just reveals who we are. And sometimes we don't like who we are, which is fine. Give ourselves a room for growth. I still don't like part of who I am, but that means that life is still ahead of us. So our best work should be ahead of us, not behind us. That's how I always think about life. It's so sad to see our best life is behind us. Our best life should be in front of us, and it's in front of all of you. So, yeah.
Amazing words, and actually that aligns so well with what we've been discussing the last few weeks about resiliency. It's not just surviving the present, but it's really preparing and moving forward into the future. So thank you so much, Tommy.
Yes.
Thank you also, participants, everyone, for joining us today. Please join me in thanking Tommy, and hope to stay in touch with all of you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
wisdom.
so much, Tommy. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless you all. Thank you.